3, 2, 1, start. A bare perusal of these provisions shows that though the family court may not recorded the evidence of the witness at great length, but a memorandum of substance of the deposition must be recorded and signed both by the witnesses as well as by the presiding judge. Section 16 empowers the family court to receive evidence of formal character by way of affidavit. It is obvious that it is only evidence character of formal character which can be received by way of affidavit, and all other evidence must be recorded orally. Stanza. One of the main issues which arises for consideration is whether the right to cross-examine witnesses is available to the parties under the Family Courts Act. A perusal of the record of the present case shows that in the divorce case filed by the husband, as many as 6 witnesses were examined on behalf of the husband and 8 witnesses on behalf of the wife. If we go through the statements of the witnesses, we find that no opportunity was given to the opposite party to cross-examine the witnesses. On perusal of the statements of the witnesses examined on behalf of the wife, it is apparent that the wife, who was not represented by a counsel, had no knowledge as to how a witness has to be examined. The statements of her witnesses are recorded in such a manner which gives the impression that no effort was being made either by the presiding officer of the court or the counselor to assist the lady in examining her witnesses. This has, in our opinion, resulted in gross miscarriage of justice. Stanza. The family courts were established with a view to make the procedure less technical and the approach more family oriented. The object was that such matrimonial disputes should be settled by mutual consent of the parties, and the effort is towards settlement and not towards adjudication. As pointed out above, lawyers are not permitted to appear. Stanza. Our experience has been that when lawyers are not permitted to appear, it is the women who suffer more. In Indian society, husbands are normally better educated than the wives. In many cases, especially in the lower strata of society, the women would be illiterate or barely educated, whereas the man would be educated and also employed. The man would also be more worldly wise. Therefore, though a man may be in a position to prepare pleadings, lead evidence, and examine and cross-examine witnesses, in many cases a woman who may not have been stepped out of her house or village would be by the atmosphere in a family court and would be unable to match her husband stanza. It is here that the role of the counselor appointed under the Family Courts Act as well as the presiding officer of the court comes in. If the presiding officer feels that any party, more especially the woman, is unable to present her case in a proper manner due to the reason of illiteracy or otherwise, it is the duty of the counselor and the family court to ensure that the woman is given legal aid by providing a legal aid counsel to her mechanically following section 13 and rejecting the prayer for assistance of counsel is not proper. In case the family court feels that a lawyer should not be appointed, then the counselor must aid and advise the woman as to how she should deal with the matter stanza. We are, however, informed that as far as uneducated and poor persons are concerned, that they are being totally handicapped in the conduct of their cases for want of legal assistance, even as far as persons coming from the educated and professional strata are concerned. The obvious difficulty that is involved, namely the drafting of applications and pleadings in consonance with court requirements and the ability to conduct an examination in chief or a cross examination, are skills which one cannot expect of a lay person. The inevitable result is that the parties are handicapped, resulting in a possible miscarriage of justice, not to mention delays and the attendant problem of having to take the matter in appeal to the High Court. This is not something which is within the ability of all the litigants. It would therefore be a healthy practice for the family court, as the scrutiny stays itself, to ascertain as at whether the parties desire to be represented by their lawyers, and if such a desire is expressed at this or any subsequent stage of the proceedings, that the permission be granted. If the court is satisfied that the litigant requires such assistance and would be handicapped if the case is not permitted. Over.